FPL managers, how are we all doing? Two videos in a week. I can't quite believe what has got into me. But you know what? Game week 21 is becoming a popular choice for the wildcard. So I thought I'd just do my favourite wildcard team in game week 21. Now, what I will say is I do actually prefer taking a hit, maybe even up to as much as a -8 instead of playing the wildcard, because saving that wildcard could be key for navigating the doubles and blanks coming up when we know exactly what's going to happen. And also, you can also use that wild card just before the bench boost to really hammer home that extra advantage that you get from the chips. But some of our teams are absolutely decimated. Some of you will have already pressed that button and committed to the wild card. So you know what? Here is my favorite draft. So we will start off with the goalkeepers and the defense with this draft. Now you'll see actually before we just get started that there's 82.5 million in the bank. I'm sure you can already work out why we might be keeping that money back, but it's essentially roots back to Salah and Haaland. You could start off with Haaland, but we will get to that when we get there. So anyway, as I said, starting off with the goalkeepers and the defense. So let's start off with the goalkeepers there. Now, I've gone with Areola. He's back in the form with the clean sheets right after everyone has got rid of him. But fair play to those of you that have kept the faith, kept him. You've probably reaped the rewards recently. And at 4.2 million, I think he's a must-have for your teams. He rotates quite nicely with Neto of Bournemouth, which is even better because Neto of Bournemouth we'll have that double game week coming up that will get rearranged from the game that was abandoned between Bournemouth and Luton. So this is banking a double game week player right from the off with your wild card, which could be very handy. You'll be very pleased with yourself that you have that goalkeeper when that double game week comes up. So moving on to the defence. Now with Saliba, I know Arsenal, maybe the form hasn't been quite as good recently. But I do believe looking at the fixtures, there are probably three opportunities in the next 5 games where there is a chance of a clean sheet for Arsenal. Obviously, it's not going to work out like that. You might get 1, 2, maybe none. But there are definitely 3 games in the next 5 where I feel like Arsenal could get a clean sheet. Now, I've gone with Saliba here just because of the minute security. Gabriel has been secure for quite a while now, but it would just be typical that you play your wild card, you use that chip, bring in Gabriel, and then all of a sudden he gets one of those random rests. So for that reason, I think it's just worth spending that extra bit of money still to go for Saliba over Gabriel. But if you're struggling for funds or you've got extra plans that you might be thinking down the line, then fine, go for Gabriel. You do get that extra goal for it with Gabriel as well. But for me, I would be going with Saliba. Now, next up, we've got Estepina. Now, this is going to be a great replacement for people who have got Trent Alexander-Arnold, replacing an attacking fullback with another attacking fullback. Now, Estepina has looked good attacking, getting in the goal since he has come back from that injury. Hopefully, he will stay fit now. But looking at the underlying numbers for a defender, expected goal performance of 0.13 per 90 and expected assist of 0.22 per 90. Those are fantastic stats for a 4.9 million defender. And I just don't think that can be ignored. And what you get as well with Estepinian is they've got fantastic fixtures all the way up until game week 29. So this is a safe hold for a long time, assuming that he is fit, until you're probably looking to play that next wild card when a lot of us will be looking to play it in around game week 30 to 33 maybe. So next up again is another attacking fullback, Porro. Now a lot of us, I'm sure, have already got Porro in their teams, have been very familiar with the attacking returns that he brings. He doesn't have the best fixtures coming up. It's a bit of a mixed bag, but you've not got Porro in there for the clean sheets. You've got Porro in there for the attacking returns. So this is a guy that you can probably just play most weeks. Forget who the opposition is, unless it's maybe Man City or Arsenal or something like that, or Liverpool. But generally speaking, this is a guy that you can play most weeks and just hope that you get those attacking returns. He's very good at picking up the bonus points as well. So we've seen times where you might only get 1 assist. It could be lots of a high-scoring game. He's conceded goals, but he still can sneak into the bonus points. So that is why I really like Porro. So moving on, I think Doty is a really good option. Now, with Luton, it's the same situation of Bournemouth. He's got that double game week coming up. And again, some fantastic underlying numbers, an expected assist there at 0.18 per 90 for 4.4 million. That is some incredible stats. And he's already backed that up with actual output as well this season with 5 assists and 1 goal as well. So with the double game week coming up, he's a guy that you can drop in when you need him. Good bit of bench cover, and then when that double game week comes up, you'll be very happy again that you've got him in your team. And then finally, Walker. Now, this is a guy you probably would not expect to get any attacking returns from, but with Walker, again, it's about planning for that double game week. You'll see a theme with this wildcard. Game week 25 is looking the most likely as it stands for that rearranged fixture between Man City and Brentford. We'll wait and see when it actually comes. But if we have Walker in our teams, we will be ready for that double game week. He's been consistent playing and starting every single Premier League match so far this season. So fingers crossed that continues. And that is why he's in there. And he's definitely got a few games coming up as well where you think there are clean sheet opportunities for Man City. And with a lot of their players coming back from injury, we might see Man City's performances improve as well. And hopefully that will bring more clean sheets too. So next up, let's have a look at the midfield. Now, you'll see obviously we've got no Salah, we've got no Son because they have gone off to the AFCON Asian Cup. So we'll start off here with the most expensive midfielder in this list, which is Bukayo Saka. Now, his form hasn't been great. He's been missing chances, but there's a few reasons why here. One is his expected ownership is still through the roof. He's one of the most, if not, I think he is the most owned player in the game currently. So he could sting you if you haven't got him in your team. He's probably going to be the player with the highest EO, I would say, going into game week 21. And I think for me, he's the best captaincy option. There is still a chance that he will take the penalties. Do you know what? There's been a lot of pity penalties, as I call them, where they're being nice to other players who might need a penalty to get a bit of confidence back. Well, maybe Saka is actually the player that needs that bit of confidence to take that next penalty as well. So I would not be surprised to see Saka take the next penalty for Arsenal. His underlying stats are really good. And while he's been in this sort of dodgy patch where he's not been performing sort of in terms of actual output, he's still been putting the underlying data in. So I think it will come. I do believe he scored against Fulham in the last Premier League game, and I do think that he will be the best captaincy option for this week. Now, next up, we have got Phil Foden. Again, planning ahead for that double game week. And he's on a bit of a hot streak as well. That's what I like about him. He feels like you're getting him in your team at the right time. He's got 4 returns in the last 4. Man City, so there's going to be 2 sides to this coin. Man City are got all the players coming back from injury, which means that hopefully Man City will be stronger. Maybe that will even improve Foden's performance even more in his output. But obviously there is the other side to that, is there's a minutes risk because all these players are coming back. But I think there's enough in it, particularly with the double game week coming up, to put Foden in. And there aren't too many other options to go for, to be honest. At the end of, after talking through the midfielders, I'll sort of talk through why I haven't picked some of the other popular choices maybe as well. But for me, Foden just about makes this wildcard team. Now, next up, Cole Palmer. I think this is just an absolute no-brainer at 5.7 million. You can just see the underlying numbers there for yourself. 0.51 even expected goal involvements per 90, 0.26 with the assist. Now, obviously, this is skewed because he's on the penalties, but we're seeing him doing it outside of the penalties as well. And 5.7 million penalty taker, doing it off the penalties and in the penalties as well. I mean, you just can't argue with having him in your team. He is probably one of the most essential picks, I would say, for the wildcard. Sure, there is a chance that he will blank in double game week 26, but we have planned for that with this team. So I will talk further on that as we go, because the next 2 options actually do help us with covering that blank game week 26 if Chelsea are involved. So next up, we've got Pascal Gross. Again, as I mentioned before, like with Estepinian, this is a guy that's going to be safe in your teams up until game week 29. So this is a real long hold. Stays fit. He's been probably the one player that's just about survived all of the rotation that's been going on with De Zerbi. He's changed his team the most out of anybody in the Premier League so far this season, but Gross has just about stayed in there fine. His numbers aren't fantastic. They don't wow you, but you would hope that with the fantastic run of games that they've got coming up, that those numbers would improve and Gross's returns would get even better. And he's a bit of a differential as well. I think you've always got to have that balance. You've got to have 1 or 2 differentials. You've got probably 2 to 3 differentials, and then have a bit of the rest template when you're playing your wildcard. That's usually my strategy, is to try and use the wildcard to get in on a few of those differential picks before they become template. And Gross could definitely be one of those players. Now, one of those other players is Pedro Neto. Now, I'm a Wolves fan, so I am absolutely buzzing that he is back. I think Wolves have been very clever. They've timed his return so that he doesn't get injured with the fact that Wang is leaving. Now, some people might say Wang is leaving. So who's he going to assist? But I think Cunha will step up, and fulfill the goals that Wang has been doing while Wang is away. He's got 8 assists so far this season, which is absolutely incredible for 5.6 million. I know he was the top assister in the Premier League. He's had that long injury. He might even still be up there in the top few, if not still the top one. So I think at that price, he is an absolute bargain. The fixtures they're mixed. When you actually, if you're a fan of the FDR system that they use on FPL, then he's got 3-3-3-3-3 for ages. But when we were talking about blank game week 26, he's at home to Sheffield United. So putting him in your team now could actually be doing yourself a huge favour, and you may well thank yourself in game week 26 when you've got Neto at home to Sheffield United in your team. And on that, actually, I forgot to mention about Pascal Gross, who's got a good fixture in game week 26 as well. They play Everton at home, so you'll have Estepinian and Gross at Everton at home in that blank game week. So I think that will be really useful when that comes. Now, the few midfielders that didn't make the list. So Richarlison, I think with Timo Werner, Richarlison isn't probably going to lose his place instantly. He might not lose his place at all. Werner might play a lot of minutes off the bench, but I think a wildcard is such an important chip that it's not one worth taking a risk on Richarlison. If I had him in my team, I'd be happy. I wouldn't sell him, but he's not really someone I would buy at this point, knowing that Werner is coming in. We just need to see how that dynamic works out. But if you've got him, I wouldn't sell him. He's probably going to be on the penalties. He's a good pick, but for me, he's not one to bring in on the wild card. Now, another one that I do actually quite like as a pick, he's been running to the ground a bit, is Anthony Gordon. Now, the thing with Gordon is he's got 2 tough games coming up, so you'd have to be happy that you're going to bench him. And I think you could with this team. If you look at the defence options, you've got like Doty, who's playing Burnley this week, etc. There's also Solanke, who's going to be one of the forward options. You could play at home to Liverpool. So there are options to bench Gordon, I think, if you need to over the next couple of weeks. But then after that, yeah, his fixtures do get really good. But for me, he doesn't quite make it just because of the fact that the next 2 aren't good. Maybe if Neto misfires over the next 2, or if Gross maybe was the wrong decision, then yeah, maybe in a couple of weeks you could look to make that move to get Gordon in, because we've seen him be consistent throughout the start of the season. But for now, he wouldn't make that list. And the other midfielder that I want to talk about that didn't make it is Douglas Luiz. I think he's just that little bit, he does get assists, I just think he's that little bit too much reliant on the penalties. What I like about Gross and Neto is you're going to get stuff from open play. So it just feels like there's more routes to points. But hey, penalty takers are always a plus in FPL. And a penalty taker at his price, I think 5.6 million, is a fantastic option. So if you go for him, and he's got a good double game week, blank game week 26 fixture as well. So look, if you went for him over one of Gross or Neto, I would not blame you in the slightest. But he just misses out because I think he's just relying a little bit too much on just getting the penalties. And then let's have a look at that forward line. Now, I'm going to address the elephant in the room here. I will leave this completely up to you, or if we get news, leaks, anything about Haaland. Now, Haaland seems to be in full training again, it would seem. The money is in the bank. You can either have Alvarez for a week, book in a transfer, move to Haaland next week, assess what's going on ahead of game week 22, or you could take the risk, or accept that Haaland might be on the bench. He's going to come on. Hey, 30 minutes of Haaland. I mean, we can see how destructive he can be. It could be enough to just put him straight in. So I'm going to leave that one to you, or the leaks, or whatever happens. Whichever way you feel more comfortable about playing. Do you prefer just having him in your team, knowing it's there, or do you want to book in that transfer and maybe bringing him in the week after? So if you are booking that transfer, I mean, there's nothing stopping you taking a real bit of a 1 week punt on going someone like Ivan Toney to then bring in Haaland. But Tony might be a bit risky. He's not really played in a year, got that hat-trick in the under-23s, but let's face it, that is under-23s football, so you kind of expect him to dominate. So I'll leave that up to you, but for me, I would go for Alvarez, booking that transfer, and then getting Haaland the week later, unless we get some good news that Haaland is starting. Other one, Ollie Watkins, high EO player, a bit of a defensive move by having him, but he's very consistent. At least every other week, he's going to get you some kind of returns. He'll chip away. He's not someone who gets massive big hauls, but you know what? There aren't loads of options in those forward lines. So I think just knowing that you can probably play Watkins against any opposition, have him in your team. I mean, Villa are doing well, particularly at home. I just think he's a must-have. He's one of the essentials for the forward line. And then finally, the last forward that I've selected here is Dominic Solanke. Now, we've recently learned that he is on the penalties, which is an even bigger bonus. You can see from his underlying numbers, 0.57 expected goal per 90, which is actually higher than Ollie Watkins is there. Fine, there is one penalty, I suppose, in there, so maybe it's not skewing it too much, but 7.1 million, still fantastic value for our teams. And like I mentioned earlier, he has got the double game week that's going to be rearranged. So he's probably one that you're going to hold until that double game week comes along. So that would be the wildcard team. Talk about future transfers that you probably got to be thinking about. So the money is in the bank to go for, I'd probably go from Saka in this team to have Salah, especially if we find out that there's going to be a double game week in 25 for Liverpool. That would be a transfer that I would be looking to do. This team does restrict you a little bit from getting to Son. I don't think Son is essential, but you might want to think about that sort of. If you really want Son for when he's back, you might start thinking about eventually how you might downgrade some players to get him in. Maybe it'd be one that maybe once the double game week of Solanke is finished, you could bring that all the way down to 4.5 million, 5 million striker, whoever the flavour of the month is at that time at the budget forward line, and then upgrade one of your midfielders to help you get Son back into your team. But yeah, that is the team. Let me know in the comments if you thought this team was any good. Who did I miss? And if you've watched this long, thank you so much. And please consider dropping a like and subscribe if you're not already doing so. So thank you very much and good luck for game week 21.